We are hopeless, selfish creatures, and we need a savior.
She was a total heathen.
All right, we're doing a podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome to your Two Nomos episode of an Exmo
And an Evermo
Walk into a Bar. I'm Kate, this is Erika. We are filming again from Land of a Thousand Hills, which is our favorite coffee spot. It's wonderful, excellent staff, excellent food, excellent drink. And yeah, we're excited to be here.
And it's just so warm and cozy. Yeah, we love coming in here every week. It's kind of like our little local Cheers every time we come in. Everybody knows your name. We're bound to run into somebody that we know here and make new friends while we're here. So we just love it. They've done such a good job. And we also want to say that the views that we express are not the views of the owners or anybody else here. They're just ours. We're just hanging out here, having a conversation about the things that we think.
We just want you to know that this episode, as with any other, is not faith promoting. If you are a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, be prepared to have your beliefs questioned and challenged.
Yes, and if you don't want to do that, just turn it off. Look away. Go somewhere else. Don't watch it because you won't like it. It's not for you. You are not our audience. So just walk away.
There you go. But if you have an open mind and you think we're hilarious, because we are.
Because we think we are.
Stick around. Tell us about our mugs, Erika.
Yeah, so before we get into our topic today, I did want to talk about these really cute mugs. They were gifted to us last week by Renee Steelman. She helped co-host a couple of our podcasts. We were on her podcast. She became visible. And she's just a phenomenal person, just really working towards women's visibility, particularly older women's visibility. And she's just a stellar, awesome Exmo human being. She's going to be doing some podcasts with us moving forward. She'll be a co-host sometimes, replacing Kate, maybe even replacing me sometimes if I'm out of town or whatever. So you will see her here again. But she gave us these really cute mugs from her podcast. She became visible. So we're drinking our tasty beverages out of these today.
Yeah.
Thank you, Renee. We love her.
Absolutely. So we're going to talk about our topic for today, which is actually really exciting for me because at the time of this recording, it is 2 days from my 2-year anniversary of leaving the church.
Yay! Happy anniversary!
Yay! Yeah, I know it's different for everybody. Sometimes people just kind of slowly over time just stop going, stop believing until they're like, oh, I don't really have a day. But for me, it was very much a day. We talked about like the shelf analogy before. If something doesn't make sense, just put on a shelf until it cracks and it ultimately breaks and you can't go back. Like you can unlearn what you've learned about things. And so for me, it very much was one day. It was July 23rd, 2023.
So
and
wild.
that I remember this experience. So I've shared a little bit about it before. But because this is like a big day for me, I hope you'll indulge me as I share this experience again.
Well, and it's a little different because you're going to dive into all of the sort of facets and what led to that, which is super fascinating. And that's kind of like when I was introduced to you through your TikTok and everything that you were saying. And I was like, how is this woman doing this? And like deconstructing all the things. Because from my perspective, everyone that I was working with in Mormon Central, that was the wall. Like there was a wall and there was no getting through it. Right. So to see you like punch through that wall and come out
like
on the
the
other
Kool-Aid
side.
man.
Like the Kool-Aid man. Except for you're like undrinking the Kool-Aid.
But spewing that thing up, spit tables all over the place.
It's totally like that though, because I was just like I couldn't imagine anyone doing that. I hadn't seen anyone deconstruct something so intense before, so I was fascinated by it. I'm sure you are going to be fascinated as well, and all the things that brought you to that point.
Yeah. So to introduce today's topic, which will be the CES letter, because that was a really instrumental part of my faith deconstruction, I want to kind of tell you what led up to that. So it was 2023. My husband put me in a position where I had to choose between him and my only child, and was really wrestling with this idea, like what kind of God, because he felt called of God to leave and put me in this position.
And it's really weird that God aligned exactly with what your husband wanted to do. What are the chances?
No, it's very much It's incredibly biased. Like, and anybody can say, well, God told me to do this. And you
God
can't,
told me to steal your wallet. I had to do
I
it.
know
Had to
you
do it.
can't question it because God, and that's something we'll talk later on about. But it was during this time I was going through just a lot of turmoil. But I realized earlier, like, I just didn't want to go to the temple anymore. I was called to be a nursery leader, which is the best calling in the church. I tell you, like, you get to play with like little 15 months to 3 years. You just go and you play.
Sounds like my hell.
No, I loved it. I loved it.
I mean, God bless him, but
Erika's not been great with this.
I'm not that maternal. Something's wrong with me.
No, you're fine. You're you. But I loved it. Going in and, I mean, instead of sitting through Sunday school or gospel doctrine or Relief Society, I got to go play with kids.
Nice.
And I remember at some point in time, I was like, I don't feel comfortable teaching this stuff to kids that I know are not developmentally prepared to hear it. Like the Book of Mormon, the first vision, sitting still during sacrament meeting. I mean, I worked with children for 18 years in elementary school as a teacher, and I knew that this was not appropriate for kids. So I had a partner teacher. Good thing that they do have like 2 adults in any position where you deal with children. And I remember telling her, I don't know, early on, I'm like, you know what? Why don't you cover all of the lessons? I'm gonna just play. I'm in
I'll
charge
do
of
arts
music
and
and games.
crafts.
Yeah, I was like, I'll do the
That's awesome.
games. I'll do the cover. I'll do the music. I'll be in charge of the fun stuff, but I kind of don't feel comfortable doing the doctrine stuff. So
Good for you.
things were going little by little in that area. And then I was going to school at the U at the time and I mean, it's a half-hour commute. So on the way there and on the way back, I just had all of this weighing on me. When my kid had just come out as trans, I was dealing with issues of like the church covering up cases of abuse that I'd heard about and my own experiences with that. So I started listening to this podcast called Latter-day Struggles with Valerie Hamaker. And it was supposed to be like kind of faith promoting at the time, like while focusing on the challenges of the church, how can you still hold on to your faith? But she wasn't even like trying to convince you to. She
She's
was
just talking.
like, these are some of the issues that I know a lot of people have. You choose your own spiritual path. Like sometimes this might lead people out of the church. Some people will stay in the church, but you get to choose what's best for you. I binged the shit out of that podcast. Like in like 2 weeks, I listened to 40, 50 episodes because I could not get enough. And I was just consuming this, like, I'm not alone. I'm not alone in my concerns about Black people in the priesthood. I'm not alone in my concerns about polygamy. I'm not alone in my concerns about the Mountain Meadows massacre, things that have just been like, weighing heavily on me. And somebody had a voice for it, and I loved it. I had a friend who had left the church about 1.5 years before I had, and she was like wrought up her ass, like as much as me, but she had left it all behind. And I had been struggling in my faith. Like, how can I continue to love her as an ex-Mormon and view her as like a sinner, you know? Because I loved her and I wanted to give space for her to kind of express her concerns, but I had boundaries. I'm like, no, I don't want to talk about that. And she respected that, which was awesome. But after I listened to this podcast for a while, I called her up and I said, I'm ready. I'm ready to hear all of the things that I've been resisting. I know. I was resisting all of this stuff. And I said, I'm ready. What am I reading? And she said, are you sure? Because it's a lot, Kate. It's a lot. Are you sure? And I'm like, yeah, lay it on me. And so she said, all right, you're reading 3 things. You're reading the church's own gospel topics essays, which are published, but they don't talk about it. They're published on the internet. The church won't talk about them, but they're there. And they address all of those concerns like Heavenly Mother and Blacks in the priesthood and polygamy and the temple ceilings and some of the things that we're going to talk about here in just a minute. She said, you're reading that. A letter to my wife, which is kind of a condensed version of the next topic, which was the CES letter. And that's what we're going to talk about today is the CES letter. For those of you who aren't familiar, CES stands for the Church Education System. And
I didn't know that actually.
it
And I was
stands
wondering when we started this, but I was like, I'm not going to ask because that sounds really stupid. We
No.
talked about the CES letter so many times and I never asked, what the hell does CES stand for?
Church Education System. So anybody
now I know.
who works for the church in like seminary, which is like indoctrination for teenagers in high school, or institute, which is indoctrination for kids in their 20s and college. The CES is Church Education System. So just to give you a little bit of background about this, Erika, there was a man by the name of Jeremy Runnels and this happened maybe, oh, it's in my notes, 2012. He had been really struggling with his faith, as a lot of members of the church do. But he wanted to strengthen it. So, of course, he goes to church approved literature. Everything in there had been like published by the church and far more accessible because of the internet, right? You don't have to go to the library. You just look it up online. And he spent a good year or so just really diving into this stuff. And the more he wanted to strengthen his faith, the more he realized that there were contradictions. He was asked to reach out to this CES director, a church education director, and ask him all of his questions. He wrote like 80 plus pages of concerns that he found in his extensive research. Like he had served the mission, he had reached every milestone, sealed the temple, went to BYU, all of the things. And he asked the CES director, like, I have a lot of questions about the church. Can you answer them? The CES director said, yeah, I got your letter. Never answered a single one. So he decided he would post this on like ex-Mormon subreddit, and it blew up like wildfire. People were starting to ask him questions. Like he said he got like thousands upon thousands of emails. Like, thank you for that validation. Thank you for that understanding. People were sharing it with other people. Totally blew up. And so it is now found online for free. You can just look up CESletter.org and you can look up all of these issues. So.
And you might have already said this, but I didn't process it. What year did he do this?
2012.
2012. Mm-hmm. Interesting.
And it was published in 2013, I think. So it was about 10 years before my exit from the church.
And you'd known about it before, right?
If I had heard,
but you were like, no.
If I had heard about, I don't remember if I'd heard about, but if I did, I probably got that sick feeling in my stomach, which is like, don't look at it. It's anti-Mormon literature or whatever. And even when my friend had left the church and she kind of told me about it, I was like, oh, I don't know, that's a little bit too much for me. Or I would take the apologist view, because there are Mormon apologists that have read it and they're like, well, here's how he's wrong. And he only left the church because he wants to sin. And he only left the church because that's what the church tells us.
Right. No, you have to demonize anyone that leaves. And I see that all the time. Like on your TikTok things, people will say, and even to me, some people think that, even though I'm always like, I am never Mormon, people are like, will say the same things. You can leave the church, but you can't leave it alone. Get over it. It's in the past. And I'm like, it's not my past. It's just, it's actually my present, because I live here in Mormon Central. I was never a part of it, but here I am.
Exactly. So what we want to talk about today is the CES letter, just as an overview. It's like I said, it's like 130 some odd pages right now. It started out smaller, then he's added some stuff to update it. So we're clearly not going to cover everything today.
Yeah, I think we'll get through as much as we can and try to like skim some stuff. And then we're going to probably do several episodes on this, probably many episodes, because we'll have some guests. We have some guests lined up to talk about it and share their point of view, who are maybe a little bit more experts on the CES letter. And then dive into it in a little bit more detail, just because I know it's so integral in terms of helping people to leave the church and see all the things that everybody on the outside sees. Whatever this guy did in writing this, because all of us on the outside living here, we're always like, do you believe this shit? But he was able to put it into like a condensed form that, because he was Mormon, so Mormons could hear that and go like, yeah, I had that too. Right. So we are going to take just a very quick break to thank our sponsor of this episode. Yay, thank you. It's Women, Wealth, and Woo with Cambria Davis, Cambria with a K. She was actually a guest on episode 9. It was called Both Sides Now. She is phenomenal. She is an astrologer here in Daybreak.
Energy healer. In fact, yesterday we went to a sound bath with her. It was absolutely amazing.
We had a wonderful time and both walked out of there feeling renewed and just had a really great experience. We were really happy to be able to join her for that yesterday, and we thank her for this. And her website is
womenwealthandwoo.com. Thank you, Cameron.
One quick thing. I mean, I guess it was because your kid had come out as trans and you just were open to it at that time. It's interesting to me, like what I mean, the CES letter tipped the scales for
Yeah.
you and changed your life. And I will say, we've mentioned this before, but I'll just reiterate. I knew you just briefly before you left the church, and I know you now, and even just like now that it's like 4 years later, you look younger now than you did then.
And I
Like,
feel young.
it is
now.
insane. Like her
Uh-huh.
face, if you had seen it before, it was like this.
It was kind of sad and
She had
defeated.
posture was like this.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, oh, and I felt so bad for her because you just didn't look happy.
And I
now
wasn't.
you're like glowy, and I know you've had like ups and downs, but like you look younger, you look happier, you look freer, even though there's some hard times. You don't have all that shit sitting on you.
Yes. And
Different shit, but like it's slowly going away.
right. And this CES letter was instrumental in my coming to understand things. I spent like 3 days honing in on like all of the things. My entire worldview was just like ripping at the seams. Because I tried really hard. I tried really hard to believe I had done all of the things. Like I graduated from seminary. I had served a full-time mission. I worked at the temple. I was sealed in the temple. I was Relief Society president. I was Young Women's president twice. I gave my all to this church. Like I was not like a lazy learner. I was not someone who was just like, I wasn't a Jack Mormon. I believed
Yeah.
because I wanted to, you know?
And as you were like tumbling through this and going through it and absorbing it, were you like, was it a click? Like, yes, thank you. Or was it like, oh no?
I'll
Like,
tell you, no, it was a click of, oh my God, finally this makes sense.
look, goosebumps, serious goosebumps.
It makes sense why this didn't make sense before.
Because it's false.
Because it's false.
It's fraudulent.
Yeah. And I didn't know that until I was reading these things. So with that story, I remember like 3 days solid just reading. And
did your husband know that you?
No,
were
he was
this?
out of state at the time. My now ex-husband was out of state at the time. And I was just spending all this time reading. And on July 23rd was a Sunday. And I think I had just gone to nursery because I loved those kids. I loved playing with them. And then my ministering teacher is like, every ward is assigned. You have like a family to kind of check in on you, try to strengthen your faith, be a forced friend. No, but this woman loved me and I loved her. And I went over to her house because my husband was out of town. They had kind of taken me under their wing, invited me over for dinner. So I was studying these things and I went over to her house with her family for dinner. And I remember thinking the whole time, like, this is not going to last. And then I went home and I finished the letter. And I'm like, well, that's false. And I texted those couple of girlfriends and I was like, none of it's true. Let's get drunk. And later that week, they threw me a coming out of the church party.
Love it.
We laughed. Like there were 8 of us that had all left the church or were not members of the church. We laughed and we cried. We shared our experiences. We watched the episode of South Park about Joseph Smith, which we could talk about. We loved. And then the day after that was the symposium, the Sunstone Symposium, which I've talked to you about before. So I had like the best coming out of the church because I had support, I had friends, and I had like a whole symposium to kind of like people like me that were trying to deconstruct their faith. The day after I finished this letter and screw my master's degree, I had to email my professors and say like, I'm taking a hit on my grade because I literally can't focus on school right now. My whole worldview has just like done a 180, you know? But I texted my husband who was out of state for job training and
I wish I could have been a fly on the wall for this.
or I texted him, I called him and I was like, hey, I just need you to understand that I'm leaving the church. I don't believe it's true anymore. And his response was, how could you do this to me at first? Which was
the most selfish thing you could say to somebody.
But had I been in another, had the roles been reversed, I may have done the same.
I don't think you would.
Maybe
you know yourself better than I do, but what I know of you, you're not selfish in that way. I think you would be hurt. You would have been hurt, but I think you would say you have empathy and boundaries, and you always operate that way. So I think you would say, that's really hurtful for me. I need to process that.
Yeah.
I don't think you'd say, "How could you do this to me?" There's an edge to it. There's a difference in that, which is it's a scolding or shaming, which you wouldn't do. You would, I think, say, "Oh, this doesn't work for me, and I'm upset."
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe
nuance.
maybe a younger version of myself would have, like maybe 10 years prior, that may have been my response. But anyway, I told him over the phone, I said, well, here are the resources that I've read. I know you're open-minded. We've had a lot of good intellectual conversations, he and I. Would you be willing to read this stuff? And he said, yeah, I'll read it. So I gave him like that week to read over the things. And then the following Sunday, we were going to talk about it. So I woke up that morning. It was a Sunday. I wanted to go to nursery just to say goodbye to these kids because I adored them. I loved these little kids. And it was just kind of my way of, I didn't let them know they weren't going to see me again, but I did let my partner teacher know. And I said, hey, I need you to know that I'm leaving the church. And she didn't know what to say. So she just gave me a big hug and said, I just need you to know that I love you. And
That's awesome.
that was beautiful. And it just so happened to be my temple recommend interview that very day.
Do you have to do those every year?
Every 2 years now, I think.
Okay.
I can't remember.
So to actually be able to participate fully in the religion, you need to have a temple recommend. And I remember Jesus in the Bible preaching about that. Like no one can participate in the love of Jesus unless you pay 10% and have this interview. Just joking, of course.
Yeah, of course.
About the Jesus part.
But in the temple recommend interview, it was with a younger member of the bishop. I think was like 10 years older than he was or something. And he was relatively new. And so I walked in there just fully confident. Like I was so excited.
To tell him no?
Yes, I was so excited to tell him
I don't know this story, guys. This is all new to me. What?
Yeah, so I walked in there and we get the pleasantries out of the way. Just like, hey, how you doing? And he's pulling up his phone because they're very specific questions you have to ask. Like, do you believe in God and Jesus Christ?
Do you masturbate? I'm just joking. That's a totally other interview.
For the children. Come on, Erika.
And she's not joking. That's true.
It is. But in the interview, they asked, like, do you believe in the God and Jesus? Do you believe in the first presidency? Do you support them? Do you live the law of chastity? Do you live the word of wisdom? Are you a full tithe payer? Meaning, do you pay your full 10%? And just a bunch of these different questions. And as he pulls out his phone to like look at the questions, I'm like, I'm going to stop you right there. I need you to know that there are a lot of people in the church that are leaving because of what they learned about church history, and I'm one of them. So I just need to let you know that I'm not going to answer any of the questions the way you want me to. Here's my temple recommend. So I gave it to him.
I wish I was a fly on the wall for that. And again.
And he couldn't say anything. Like anyone else maybe would have tried to convince me to stay. Or if I was wavering at all, they probably would have been like, let's process this and let's keep you here. But I went with my back erect and I was just like, I need you to know this doesn't work for me. I was fully confident, 100%, I'm done. He was like, oh, okay. Like he didn't know what to say. But
especially with you, because did he know you?
He did. Like,
yeah, so he must have been like, what is happening right now?
Probably.
Because you were like,
I was
in.
Yeah. So he, and I'm going to give him credit for this. He's like, well, is there anything we can do for you? I'm like, yeah, I'm moving in a month. Do you want to help me move, or is that conditional? But I was kind of a bitch that way.
Did you say that? Oh my God. What? You're leaving me hanging.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, I left.
What did he say? Did he say it was conditional?
He
was
said,
he
no.
like, blah, blah, blah,
No, he was like, no, we're going to help you. We'll help you out. And they did. I mean,
you think like the gazillion dollars you'd given them in tithing up till that point could help pay for one like little help with a move?
And they did. And props to them. Like, that's good. Props to them. And they knew I was very public and open about my exit from the church. A week later, or later that week, I like did a great big Facebook post saying, hey, world, I need you to know. I mean, and that's a different story for a different time. But I became very public about it, but my words still showed up. Not all of them. I know there were people who judged me because I was a hardcore judger myself once upon a time. So I'm going to give them grace, understanding that that's just where they were in their journey.
And that's what
But
they're told to do.
yeah.
So they're just acting. We're talking about
Uh-huh.
people, but these are people who have been manipulated and indoctrinated
Mm-hmm.
and coerced into doing,
Right.
into behaving in a certain way, and told if you don't behave this way,
Mm-hmm.
you're cavorting with the devil, basically.
Kind of,
So
yeah.
you need to
Yeah.
you need to do that to either shut
Yeah.
somebody or try to pull them back in. So it's not their fault. Like, that's
No,
just
and
what they've been fed.
sometimes you just don't know what to say. Because I had friends in my ward who left the church, and I was like, I genuinely don't know how to navigate this. So I would take a step back to be like, how can I continue to love them when they're no longer believing the same thing as me? So again, I give tons and tons of grace to people who are still in the church.
Yeah.
Because it's really not their fault.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So anyway, to go on with this story, after I was done with the temple recommend interview, I walked out the door.
Did you get it? Just joking, guys.
Spoiler alert, I did not get a temple recommend that day.
He would have gotten a big F you if he could say that.
Right. No, but I remember walking out that church building after that recommend, like, this is my last time in this building ever. This is my last time probably in any church building. And I have not gone back since. Yeah. And maybe I will sometime down the road. Like, maybe if I still have active members who invite me to like a baptism or a baby blessing or something that they view as a really big milestone, and I've healed enough that I can do that, maybe I will. I mean, I went to a funeral, an LDS funeral, like right after Christmas or right at Christmas time, and it was awful. Like,
Yeah.
walking back in there, I was like, I'm not ready to be here. I don't feel comfortable. I don't love the talks. The speakers were just all about like, okay, this person died, but let's talk about Jesus. And like, most of the conversation, the talks were focused on Jesus and not on the person who had passed. So that was kind of frustrating for me. Not ready to go back. Still not ready to go back. But
Yeah.
one day we're gonna do a trying moment where I take you to church.
I'm gonna wear a halter top and a mini skirt and see if they try to convince me.
We shall see.
That will be really fun.
Yeah.
Although I don't even know if I could last. Like, I've said this before, when I find myself inadvertently in Mormon spaces, I know the second I'm
Yeah.
there and I'm very uncomfortable. I
Yeah.
feel really put off. And there was a time when Murph and I we went to something, and as soon as we walked in, I grabbed him. That Murph is my husband. I grabbed him and I was like, everyone here is Mormon. And you can tell because they all look like this.
Yeah, for those of you listening, you need to see this face on Erika.
But that's how they look to me. I'm sure that's
Yeah.
maybe not quite as blatant as that, but it's
No.
always this, like, it's a feeling. So to have to go, like, when we go, I'm gonna have to take a Valium or something. I don't know, a Xanax, so I
see.
can like chill
We'll
out, or I'll just be really drunk. Oh, would that be fun?
Yeah, we're gonna try to make it as comfortable as we can for you and for members.
Everybody else.
We'll
Can I
have-
give testimony?
You could.
Oh, she's scared
I'm
now.
a little scared. I'm not gonna lie.
I wouldn't do
But
that probably.
We'll cross that bridge when we get there. Anyway, with this story, after I left the church, knowing that was my last time to go, I also knew it was the conversation I was gonna have with my husband at the time. I went home and I knew it was over. Like, I knew it was over. I picked up the phone, called him. I was like, hey, have you had a chance to read over all of these things? And he's like, well, I knew all of this stuff. And I already knew all of this, and it didn't really faze me. And I'm like, really? You knew about like the rock and the hat? You knew about Joseph's polygamy? I mean, some of those things that were new to me. And he's like, yeah, I know. And it doesn't assuage my faith. Like, I'm going to stay in. And I said, cool. Like, that's your choice. Totally fine with you. Then he said, do you think we could make a mixed faith marriage work? And I said, no. You put me in a position. I had to choose between you and my only child because God told you that that's what had to happen. And we need to have a solid foundation to begin with. And you and I both know that we don't. It was really the church that was keeping us together. Like, that I had made these temple covenants with him. I had been divorced before, and I knew that like God had given me a mulligan with my first marriage. But if I were to fuck up a second marriage, straight to hell, right? So now that I was like, I don't believe in that anymore. I didn't feel like I needed to stay with this marriage. I don't want to wish him ill. I don't want the ex-husband to have to suffer any more than I know he already is, because humans suffer. So I don't want anybody to go and find him and attack him or anything like that. But that's where he was in his faith journey. This is where I was with mine. And we didn't make it work. Props to people who do make mixed faith marriages.
Like Renee, one
like
of
Renee.
our co-hosts, betting on sometimes. I cannot wrap my mind around it. I don't know how she does it. Her husband sounds like a fantastic guy who just doesn't, they just don't talk about that stuff. To me, it's like, I can't, there's just such a difference in the way you move through the world and engage with the world. I can't even imagine having to do that. And we've talked about everything from what you eat, what you drink, what you wear, what you do most of the time, your underwear. You can't, what you watch. Like, I mean, you just like the things that like trying to imagine if Murph were LDS, like none of the things that we do could be done. Like we swear, both of us like sailors, we like to watch interesting content that's R-rated. I don't know how people do it.
So if any of you who are watching or listening do have a mixed faith marriage, our hearts go out to you. And if
good for you if that works.
And if you want to share with us some of your tips and tricks, I know a lot of our audience members would be interested in hearing.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
I can't imagine.
No.
But anyway, so I'm no longer married to him. And I feel really good about it. I feel really good. Like, so leaving my faith and leaving my marriage was the best choice for me. Has it been easy? No. Am I really horny? Yes.
So if you're listening or watching, give her a call. 555 babe. Just joking.
No, one day I'll find it. I just.
Yeah. No, you're just dating and having fun now. You are having your Mormon spring out, and you're never going back.
Yeah.
But yeah, you should have fun. We all get to do that when we were young. And you get to do it now.
Yeah,
it's fun.
Yeah, sure. Developmentally appropriate things in your 40s is great. Great. At any rate, no longer married. But one of the things that Jeremy Reynolds says, I just listened to his Mormon Stories podcast. Fascinating if you want to go listen to that. He said that one of the number one reasons that he wants to make this available to the public is because he wants to save marriages. He wants to save families because
hoping that they both get out,
hoping that they both come to conclusions.
Awesome.
Yeah. And he has shared stories of people who were in like this mixed faith marriage. And then once the other partner leaves it, then they're like, okay, I see where you're coming from. And they can exit together.
And you were just talking to me about some people that you know who are in a mixed faith relationship, and they really care about each other and they really love each other, and it looks like it's probably doomed because of the mixed faith, and one's got a zig and one's got a zag.
Yeah.
And that's so sad.
It really is.
Especially on this side of things, when you see that everything is fraudulent, that a relationship between two people who really, really care about each other, and that's what should matter. Love and caring about each other, they're going to be ripped apart and very sad because one has been indoctrinated into this fraudulent organization.
Yeah.
Which is just such a bummer.
It is. And for a church that's all about families, there's a condition attached. We're all about families if you conform, if you both conform, if you do what we say. Apart from that, we don't mind if we
split them up, blow them up, whatever. We don't care.
You can't attend weddings unless you have your temple recommend. So I no longer have one. I can never go to another one of those, but I wouldn't want to either.
And I feel like that is, I don't think even maybe Jehovah's Witness, I feel like there are no other religions. Like my husband and I just went to a Catholic wedding, which was interesting. We didn't have to be Catholic. A bunch of people were not Catholic. We could all be there and celebrate their day and be in the church with them. It was fine. I don't know of any other religion that would say you can't, no one in your family or friends, anybody can attend, no one can attend this, like one of your most special days in your whole life, if they're not paying us 10% of their income.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Maybe Jehovah's Witnesses and somebody, I'm sure there is.
Yeah,
there aren't a lot.
A lot of those are high demand religions.
Cults.
Yeah, that's another way of saying it. So back to this CES letter, I'm going to kind of go over just an overview of like the different topics there are, and some will make sense to you, some won't.
And can we start with, this isn't in our notes, I'm going off script here.
Yeah.
She loves it when I do that.
I do love it when she goes off script.
She's like, bring it back, bring it back. No, but this is on point. I'm wondering so there's like there's a bunch of stuff in the CES letter, and from all of us on the other side, there's like none of it really makes sense.
Right.
Okay. If you could pinpoint the most glaring, conspicuous discrepancy, something that just does not make logical sense, the one thing where you went, oh, and I know there's like some of the bad, the polygamy and all that stuff, but like, what was the one thing where you're like, that doesn't even add up at all? Is there one thing you?
It was polygamy.
It was polygamy.
It was polygamy for me, and polyandry. I mean, I didn't know Joseph Smith was a polygamist. I had no idea. I was a true believing member of the church. Who, if I had heard it, it was like, those are rumors, those are anti-Mormon rumors, right? I had no idea he was a polygamist. I thought that it started with Brigham Young. Yeah, I had no idea. Yeah, she's got a great goosebump barometer going off here. I had no idea.
That's so funny because we all know. Everyone outside of the church is like, Joseph Smith, polygamy. Yeah, that's how it all started. This guy was caught on top of his maid by his wife in a barn, and he was like, God told me to do it.
I had no idea because you're fed a very sanitized version of church history.
So you thought it was just him and Emma?
Yeah, I thought it was him and Emma. I totally thought it was him and Emma. Until I read the CES letter, maybe and like letter to my wife, and I kind of heard rumors about it. And then coming to it, I was like, holy shit. So it wasn't just Joseph Smith's polygamy, but it was his polyandry, which for a definition of what polyandry is Joseph Smith sent men on missions, like out of the country to different states and things. And then he would marry their wives. They were already married to these men. Why the hell did he feel like he needed to marry other men's wives?
What a great guy.
And the whole idea between the pedophilia, like who in their right mind feels like it's okay to marry a 14-year-old?
A pedophile.
A pedophile is really what it is. Because it's not like she didn't have opportunities to get married to other Mormon men. It wasn't like we need more posterity in the LDS Church. There were plenty of LDS men. And she was young and but that was robbed from her. Her childhood was robbed from her. And if you read, do you mind if I read a little bit about this? This is Helen Mark Kimball, young 14-year-old. Joseph says to her and to her family, like, if you take this step and marry me, then you're going to be sealed to me and your family's going to be sealed to me. And like, you're going to have like an extra step in heaven. I don't know. But he's like, your eternal salvation, exaltation is based on whether or not you marry me. And so she wrote like this. This promise was so great that I willingly gave myself to purchase so glorious a reward. None but God and angels could see my mother's bleeding heart. When Joseph asked her if she was willing, she replied, if Helen is willing, I have nothing more to say. She had witnessed the sufferings of others who were older and who better understood the step they were taking, and to see her child, who had scarcely seen her 15th summer, following the same thorny path. In her mind, she saw the misery, which was as sure to come as the sun was to rise and set, but it was all hidden from me. This beautiful young girl is worried about her mother. I mean, who's to say what she was feeling inside? I mean, I'm sure there are records of it, but her mom was just like racked with torment. Like, who wants to see their 14-year-old turned over to a guy in his 30s? Like, it's disgusting. So when I read that, when I read about the like, that was just like, well, shoot, I'm out. Because I knew that his resources came from church history. Like legit church history. It wasn't like these anti-Mormons that were coming after.
It was actual church.
It was actual church history.
So let me ask: you talked about the specific church documents. So that's in there. The church just doesn't ever talk about Joseph Smith's polygamy.
Now they
do. Oh, that was recent, right?
Recently, they're like, well, duh. Everybody knew that Joseph Smith was a polygamist because they're good at gaslighting. Like, well, you should have known this the whole time. I'm like, no. When I was in seminary, when I was growing up in primary, it was Joseph and Emma, and that was it. And he was so loyal to her, and he loved her more than anything. She was just so precious.
And that is where things get really fucked up for in my brain about this, because if they're teaching that, and you know that they know that they have access to all this other information that they have stored in official church documents that is accessible.
Yeah.
They're just not sharing it openly. One, they know it's wrong, and they know what they're feeding people is a lie, which like leads me to believe that probably the vast majority of church leadership understands that the entire thing is fucking fraudulent, and they're doing it to maintain a very profitable organization.
Powerful organization.
Powerful, profitable, that owns a shit ton of land. And that is why we do this, because it pisses me off.
Yeah.
Like it's so harmful to see what's done to people in the name of that, and all of the lies that they know that they're upholding. It's not that they're ignorant the same way that they want their congregations to be.
Yeah.
They fucking know, because they hid that from you, and they hid that from you because they know it's wrong.
Yeah.
It's fucked up.
It's a power. They're power hungry. They're greedy. They don't care about. Granted, there are people in the church I know that find joy. Like, they love the community. They love the opportunity to serve. They love a lot of things about like spiritually nourishing your soul, like family. A lot of things are good. Family, like together time, family home evening, focusing on serving your community, like lots of good things. But again, for me and for a lot of other people, it's a net loss.
And it's fraudulent.
And it's fraudulent.
And at the bottom, at the end of the day, it is fraudulent.
Yeah.
And that is the thing that is stinky.
So I did want to kind of touch on the other topics in the CES letter. He outlined it just with these different headings of different topics he was going to cover. Polygamy was one of them. And the polyandry, which that was like, I was like, I'm done, I'm out. But I wanted to read all of the other stuff too. So he talked a little bit about the Book of Mormon, and what are called anachronisms. Are you familiar with that is?
I know what an anachronism is.
Okay.
But so it's just when something exists in a time that the thing didn't exist. So if you're making a movie about the 1700s and someone has a cell phone, you're that's an anachronism.
Exactly.
I didn't have that back then.
So the anachronisms in the Book of Mormon were, they talked about how there were horses, cattle, oxen, sheep, swine, goats, elephants, wheels, chariots, wheat, silk, steel, and iron. They did not exist in pre-Columbian America. They just didn't. And those are all anachronisms that are found in the Book of Mormon.
But maybe God just put them there.
And then he took them away. Exactly.
That makes sense. Whatever you need to tell yourself.
Right. And like at the end of the Book of Mormon, there's this great big battle at the Hill Cumorah, which we learned is in New York City, or I mean, in the state of New York, rather. There was supposed to be this great giant battle where like tens of thousands of people died. Zero archaeological evidence. I mean, if you were to do a dig there, you would find nothing. There are lots of things about the Book of Mormon that just don't make sense. And the reason why is because he made it all up, right? And it was based on other things he was reading at the time, which we'll go into more detail when we do an episode about the Book of Mormon.
You might not have known even, like, you might, I would have assumed that, that in pre-Columbian America, horses were around. I knew that wheat wasn't really, but horses, sheep, I don't know. But he was writing from a place of ignorance.
Yeah.
He didn't know, so he threw it in there. He was like, oh, this seems like this thing that would be around.
Right.
But it's false because he was making it up.
Another thing that was in the letter was the Book of Mormon translation. Like I said, I didn't know about the rock in the hat till I was 45.
So we
rock in the hat.
Yeah. So we have to walk through this because I am actually confused. Probably even more so than you are. So when I first got here, and I was talking to some people who were still in the church, and then later much later, someone who had left the church, she talked about she told me like his plate, and he would like look through them like little glasses, and they would translate this pre-Columbian language that was written on by Mormon, Moroni, all of the people. Yeah. So he had his special plate glass thing, whatever, read the plates, and he was like, oh my goodness, this is the one true religion. I'm going to start it, I've been told. And then Moroni said, but like, you have to wait or something, like, don't tell anybody yet.
Yeah.
And he was like, no, I got to tell people. And so he told everybody because it was the good news. And then Moroni was like, I need to go. I'm sorry. Like when I heard, so that's the original story that I heard. We'll do the hat thing in a second. But when I heard, I think actually your husband might have told me that story initially. And I was like, if someone told me a story and they were like, oh my God, Erika, I found these plates and they like tell the one true story of God and it's just amazing and you got to believe me and I have the plates and they're so great and I say, "Oh my God, really? That's phenomenal. Can I see them?" Oh, you know, so
God tell me no.
Yeah, God took them back through this angel, so I don't have them anymore. But they were totally real, and this angel took them away. I'd be like, "Fuck you! What are you doing?"
Granted, like this is a very different time and it's a different era because back then in the
still.
1800s, but in the 1800s, people were incredibly gullible, particularly the less educated people. I mean, they're farmers.
I know.
They didn't really know any better, and they're looking. Everybody's
I
looking
think it
for.
makes more sense though. Like if I were to do it, I'd be like, an angel came down and said blah 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 and put the story in my head rather than I had plates and whoopsie, I lost them. Like what?
But the thing that was
Joseph, do better.
But the thing about the CES letter that really stood out to me was the fact that there were no gold plates ever, because what he would do, he had the seer stone, he put it in a hat and pulled it up to his face, and he would look in there and translate the Book of Mormon through a rock and a hat. The plates were superfluous.
So the plates, that story that I originally heard about the plates, now they're saying that didn't happen. There were no plates.
I don't
didn't
know.
give them, didn't take them away. Is that what they're saying? Like, what's their official story now?
I don't
That was
know,
just,
'cause I left the church before they had a chance to like
they
explain things,
switched
like,
it.
or before I learned what they were explaining. So
That's even crazier.
maybe
to
it
me.
was in the CES letter. I just not CES letter in the gospel topics essays. I don't remember because this is what my focus was.
So there was nothing in the hat. Just
A stone,
just a stone,
like
and
a stone that he used to find treasure. Like at the time, like there was like this Captain Kidd story that was like a dime novel at the or whatever at the time, and so treasure hunting was like, ooh, so exciting in this adventure. And so he's like, ooh, I'm going to find treasure for you. So they had a little business.
And he was sued for this, wasn't he? Or
Yeah,
not
he was sent in
sued,
jail.
whatever.
Like,
Yeah,
I think
put in
he
jail.
spent time in jail for like swindling people. But they're like, let's take this guy who has been in jail because a poor victim for swindling people out of their money. Put South Park. Like that episode that I saw.
Dum 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 dum
Dum
dum
dum dum dum. I think I shared with you. Was the story of Joseph Smith. This was done in like 2003. 20 years.
Oh, and they did that. Did they?
Yeah.
Do that?
And in the episode of the Joseph Smith, it shows him looking at the rock and the hat. And a lot of people are like, that's just fiction. That's anti-Mormon fiction. I never watched South Park because it was too racy and too inappropriate. I learned about the rock and the hat 20 years after South Park released that. I was like, am I an idiot? And I felt like an idiot.
You're not an idiot. You've been fed something.
Right, because growing up in primary and in young women and seminary, you always see these pictures of Joseph Smith poring over these gold plates, like these paintings of artist renditions. Like, who the fuck knew about the rock and the hat? I didn't.
But the church did.
But the church did, and they were just giving me a sanitized version of history, which fit their narrative. But now they can't hide from it. The internet. They can't hide from the internet.
So we put a rock in a hat, look through it, no plates, and then just like spout it off Book of Mormon.
Mm-hmm.
Makes a lot of sense.
You got a business idea, don't you?
We're going to talk after this. We're starting something new. 20% of the income. Just joking.
So that was something that also kind of like confirmed my decision to leave. Was like, well, I've been lied to there. First vision was like Joseph Smith saw God, Jesus Christ. You've heard that story? Yes? No?
I think you mentioned something about it. I might be confusing it with another vision of like
Yeah.
3 dudes or something.
Yeah.
That's a whole other thing.
We'll get to that later. Like, again, we'll have episodes on.
I get confused.
I don't know why. Why would you get confused, Erika?
Because none of it makes any fucking sense.
There's also something called the Book of Abraham, which Joseph Smith purportedly reported from these this papyri that he got from like an ancient a sarcophagus. Like sarcophagus, is that the word? Like
Yeah, I think so.
with
like
mummies?
yeah.
Well, it keeps his mummies. So he purchased like the sarcophagus. Inside there were these this papyrus. and he translated it to be like, oh, this is Abraham. This is the story of Abraham being sacrificed. No. It was just like a death scroll. Like Egyptologists will be like, that's fucked up. No,
He made it up. So there was writing
he
on
just
it
made
that
it.
meant a thing that he did actually get, but he just made up a different story.
He made up a difference. I don't think he even understood.
Of course,
he's
but
just
he didn't
like-
think anyone else could read it
Right.
either. And he's like, I'll just say whatever the fuck I want.
Right.
Who's going to know?
So that was another thing. We already covered polygamy, polyandry, prophets, like how they contradict one another, like Brigham Young saying like, yeah, blacks are the worst. And then come down today, Russell Nelson's like, we love the black people. It's very, very contradictory the way the prophets talk. They talked about these Kinderhook plates. We'll go into tell us the story. I want to hear your first. I want to hear you.
I only know it because someone that I worked with who had left the church was like, we would chat. Sometimes she'd come in my office and be like, you got to hear about this. And this was the doozy. Like, this was sort of insane. So I guess these sort of like archaeologists or whatever back in the day, pseudo archaeologists found a giant or something that they said was a giant or whatever. Well, maybe I'm mixing it up.
I don't know. Go for it. Let's hear your story.
Or maybe they just found like the scrolls that talked about this very specific thing about a giant buried somewhere or something like that. No, am I totally up? I'll just do the thing and you can tell me what I'm wrong. So they brought these scrolls and they were like, whoa, look at what we dug up. We found, they tell a story. We heard you can translate this stuff. Can you please do it? And he said, of course I can. Of course. So he took it and took his seer stone or whatever the fuck and translated these things and said it says this and this and this about this giant that's buried or something. That's what I was told. It was
you know more than I do. Awesome. Let's continue.
So it finally came out that it was actually a hoax, and the guys were like, "Haha, fuck you." It doesn't mean it was either meant something totally different.
They just scribbled plates.
And Joseph, being the dummy that he was, translated it into just whatever he wanted to say. But then afterwards, they were like, "Gotcha! It doesn't say a damn thing," or it says this.
And we're not going to hear about that in the sanitized church history because that was the first I'd ever heard of Kinderhook plates. And so they weren't scrolls, but they were like metal plates. And they've been able to look at this and like this metal does not come from the time period. It's from like the 18th century, 19th century metal. So it's all a fraud.
And the guys came out and they were like, it's a hoax. We were playing a trick on you and you fell for it. But the church is just
they're not going to tell us.
And the church just buries it, which is like fascinating. They don't, the woman that I was talking to, I think said they just basically said, pay no attention, but to the man behind the curtain.
Exactly. Other things in the letter were testimony and spiritual witnesses, where they talk about, and Renee and we talked about this with Renee last week, where they would just say, focus on your feelings, like critical thinking. Forget that. It's all focus on your feelings. But when do you trust your feelings? Like your feelings aren't facts. Your feelings are feelings, right?
There's about two different things.
Yeah, right. So there's that. There's the priesthood restoration. The priesthood restoration was like when Joseph Smith formed this church. He said nothing about this until years and years later. Oh yeah, by the way, we had because he kept making up the story.
What is the priesthood restoration?
So the priesthood, that's the story, the vision you were talking about. Like when the three guys came, Peter, James, and John came and like, you're coming together. And then John the Baptist came and you get this type of priesthood. So there are two types of priesthood, like the Aaronic and the Melchizedek priesthood. And I don't remember who gave who what. But the fact that Joseph Smith started this religion with no mention of the priesthood until years later. Oh, by the way, this happened all these years ago. They're like, why didn't you mention it back then? That would have been important to know, right? So that sort of thing. The three witnesses were people who said that they saw the plates, but it was with their spiritual eyes, not with their physical eyes. And all three of them were excommunicated.
AKA, I made it up.
Right.
I vouched for him.
And Martin Harris was one of the three, and he was kind of wackadoo. Like he believed all sorts of random weird ideas, and to trust his word was to be like, maybe not so much, because you maybe need to see a psychiatrist is really what it was. Not that I have any problems with seeing a psychiatrist.
No, definitely. Psychiatrists are great.
They really are, but come on. Temples and Freemasonry, meaning Joe's
This is one of the big ones that for me, like, how do you know? So like all of the rituals in the temple are derived directly, almost exactly from Freemason rituals. And Joseph had been cavorting with some Freemasons.
How many times before? Like he had just joined 7 weeks. 7 weeks after his first Masonic initiation. He's like, oh, by the way, I got this endowment ceremony in the temple. And unless you're a Mason, you can't make that connection. And who can't be Masons? Well, women can't. And not everybody was part of that. So they're like, oh, yeah, this is great. But we've already had our episode on the temple, and it's creepy as.
And you would think, though, like if I were going to make up a religion, and then I was going to, I was part of this other group that had these, very specific rituals, I might go, that is a good idea to get people into this because it's very like club-like and it binds you. We're people, we like rituals.
Yeah.
I'd make up my fucking own.
Yeah.
Like, I'd be like, well, if we're going to do I'd be like, we're going to do that. Like this, that's not my own.
I think he did change a couple of, I think he did. I think he kept it.
Oh, we kept some of them.
I mean, but I'm not an expert on this. Maybe we'll get someone who is a little bit better.
I've heard from some people that they're
almost the same.
I think Alyssa Grenfell might have done like a TikTok or two about it and showed like the same, like the specific. I could be making that up, but I feel like I saw
it's pretty dang close. Let's just say it's pretty
dang close.
We'll talk a little bit more about this later.
Joseph, you should have been more creative.
Amen, sister. Another one of the headings in the CES letter was science, and Jeremy Reynolds breaks this down. Like, here's Henry Eyring was a scientist. He's one of the top three, right? Currently, he was a scientist. And he said, since the gospel embraces all truth, there can never be any genuine contradictions between true science and true religion. I'm obliged as a Latter-day Saint to believe whatever is true, regardless of the source. But really, because here are some of the contradictions that we found, was the LDS Bible Dictionary says that the church, there was no death before the fall of Adam, but we have dinosaurs. And they say that the church is only like, they say that the earth is like 4,000 years old, but we have evidence, carbon dating, the earth is millions upon millions of years old.
Billions.
Yeah, billions of years old. Our finite mind cannot comprehend how old this earth is. But you just go to the Grand Canyon and you're like, that did not take 4,000 years. You can't.
My husband is a geologist.
Yes.
He like points out all like this is 60 million years ago.
Yes,
there was like in here in Utah, there's like dinosaur prints all over the place, which is super fascinating.
And to say that was 4,000 years ago.
Yeah,
no,
because we were here 4,000 years ago, and we did not exist at the same time.
Right. And then it says like more than 90% of all organisms that have ever lived on the earth are extinct. At least a handful of times in the last 500 million years, 50 to more than 90% of all species in the earth have been disappeared in a geological blink of the eye. And to say that no death happened until the fall of Adam is ridiculous.
So did they say anything about that now? Like, did they ever try to explain that? Did they mean like metaphorical death? Did they mean?
I don't know. I haven't read the Gospel Topics essays in a hot minute. So maybe they try to talk about it. I don't know. It could always be just like metaphorically. Who knows how long a day, because, God created everything in 7 days. Who knows how long a day was? It could have been a billion years, but the church, but the earth is only.
But there were days at that time because there was a planet for billions of years going around the sun. Yeah. So there were days. There weren't days before our level, our like time frame of days. But once the planet was here, there were days. That's how we measured. So for the last 4 billion years, I think the earth is, don't quote me. Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah, it's insane. There were other things mentioned, like under the heading other in the CES letter. He talked a little bit about the censorship of the church, how, like I've said, they just feed you a sanitized version of what really happened, and they don't tell you things that are going to put them in a negative light. Like Brigham Young and his racist teachings, like we're not going to talk about that. Or if Brigham Young did talk and he said he got it from God, he wasn't speaking as a prophet, he was speaking as a man. And we have to use the spirit of discernment to figure out when the prophet is speaking as when is he speaking as a prophet and when is he speaking as a man? Like, that's too much of a responsibility to put on anybody. And if God is acting like that, he's an asshole for leaving all of his children this confused about who to believe and when, right?
Yeah. And the church is gonna, I mean, they're gonna have to dig deep and really get people to invest in a different way, or really enforce the idea that if you engage with any of this information, that is the devil. And I know they do that already, but they're going to have to, as we move forward and there's more and more information available, the internet is more widely available. We're probably going to have chips in our brains in a few years. They're going to need to be highly controlling of that information and really dissuading people because it's all available. And the more that people like you find it and read it and change their minds, the church is going to be screwed. So they're going to have to come up with some kind of a new strategy, either to get ahead of it or to get behind it and shut it down. I mean, they're going to have to like build a wall or something, tell people not to go on the internet anymore.
Well, back in Joseph Smith's day, there was a printing press that was printing the truth, meaning these are all lies. Joseph Smith is a pedophile. He didn't like that, so he had people go burn down the printing press. So you can burn down a printing press, Joseph Smith, but you cannot burn down the internet. And
Not yet.
Not yet. It's probably doing a pretty good job doing that itself, right? But other things that the church has covered up was like the financial history, like the SEC scandal, where they had hid billions of dollars from the public, and like, oh no, these funds aren't secret, they're sacred. Bullshit. Like, if you believe, I believe in transparency. Like, let me know how my tithing dollars are being spent.
And what's wild about that is, for a lot of people, that does kick them out of it or make them go like, wait, this is not cool. But for a lot of people, and I've had so many conversations with people online now because I'm in like all of these Mormon circles, and many of them, they don't care. They don't care, which is wild to me. Like, this organization is taking your hard-earned money and the hard-earned money of millions of people across the planet, from poor people, from anybody, telling people, feed us before you feed your children. And they were hiding money in shell corporations and were fined, I think, $5 million. And this was recently. So they're lying to you about where your money is going. But the people who just can't. And this is what I mean when I look at people and I'm like, how do you make this make sense in your head? But they go, what? They're just like successful. Like, they're just like, they invest. Like, that's who doesn't do that? That's a good thing.
Well, no, and they also, I mean, to their credit, they do donate millions of dollars.
Yeah, it's less than 1% of
millions of dollars when they have hundreds of billions of dollars.
Yeah, I think we looked it up once, and I think they donate about $1 billion to $2 billion a year. But in terms of what they're worth, that is it's like less than 1% of what they have. And they have property. They like own malls.
Yeah. And that was one of the points in the CES letter was back when the luxury mega mall, like City Creek Mall. Have you been to City Creek in Salt Lake?
No, I don't think so. I've been to the Gateway.
Yeah, Gateway's not that. That's not the same. It's right across the street from the temple because they wanted to improve the temple's property value. I remember as a kid going to the temple, but right across the street, like, the mall was shit. It really was really ghetto and run down. So in order to increase that property value, the church did this major renovation, and they built this. It was $1.5 billion for this luxury mega mall that they own. But the church's humanitarian aid from 1985 to 2011 was $1.4 billion. So just looking at that, it says that over 26 years of humanitarian aid, they donated less than what they spent on a mega mall. Over 26 years. And you think like the Church of Jesus Christ would focus on feeding the poor and the hungry, because that was his whole mission, right? Jesus's mission. Jesus's mission was like, take care of the
Jesus
vulnerable.
would be so pissed if he were real. He would come back and be like, "What the fuck are you doing? You did not hear a damn thing that I said."
Right, exactly. In this, they also talk about the name of the church has changed from the Church of Christ to the Church of Jesus Christ, the Church of the Latter-day Saints, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It's just changed over time. And anti-intellectualism. Like they would target people who were smart and intellectual and could use critical thinking skills and logic to deconstruct this. All of the time people are saying no. I mean, don't listen to those smart people because they don't have enough faith. But you do. You have faith. You've turned off your critical thinking skills. Good job.
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up. So those are just some of the things that he covered in the letter, which is very extensive. And like I said, this episode isn't long enough to go into everything. So we are going to have little episodes.
We're going to break it down.
We're going to break it down. But I think now, my friends, we are going to do a trying moment. Erika, you have never read anything from the Book of Mormon before, ever.
No, I have never read anything from the Book of Mormon. I have heard some things from you, and I have a copy. You have my copy.
Yeah, I left it today, so we're going to use our friendly internet.
But and we have a copy because the missionaries showed up, and oh man. Whenever they show up, one aside, whenever they show up, my husband is always like, leave them alone. And I'm like, no. And I'm like, hi. And sometimes if I see them outside, I flag them down, come here. And they're, oh man, they look so happy. They come skipping over. They go like this, Kate. They go. And then they come over, hi. And I'm like, I would love to talk to you. That's so great. They go. And then a few minutes later, they're like,
no, we went to Temple Square for general conference, and Erika's like, ooh, sister missionaries. I'm like, no, don't do it, Erika.
I behaved for the most part. So, but these guys came and I started grilling them. And I think actually one of the things I talked to them about was the temple recommend. I was like, make this make sense for me because Jesus was like super inclusive and just taught everybody to love each other, be kind, and you know, and then everyone was welcome. Yeah. And your church says that you have to do this, this, and this to have a temple recommend. Most other churches don't do that, and that seems like really contradictory to what Jesus would say. And they're just like, okay, just thank you for your time. And they go, but the next day they're sweet, and they left a Book of Mormon on our doorstep with a real nice Jesus loves you. And they're doing the best they can. They are doing the best they can. They were trying to like save us. And so we have a Book of Mormon.
Which you left in my house. Oops.
But also was really helpful. And in some ways, maybe Jesus was working through them because it's been a great prop for us.
Kind of has.
We used it in a photo shoot. And so thank you, missionaries, if you ever see this.
Yeah, for sure.
But they would.
So, Erika, I'm going to have you read a scripture here because now it's time for a trying moment.
And now it's time for a trying moment.
The scripture that I found, yes, it's going to be boring as hell. So if you want to like speed this up, you can. You're just going to read
as quickly as possible.
Yeah, you're going to read a scripture that is in the Book of Mormon, which... yeah, you're going to love it. So read this first one where he's talking. This is the prophet Nephi writing about the Lamanites who were Nephi's brothers, Laman and Lemuel in the Book of Mormon. They were naughty. And so this is what happened with their generation. Go ahead.
And he had caused, my eyes suck, and he had caused the cursing to come upon them. Yea, even a sore cursing. Because of their iniquity. For behold, they had hardened their hearts against him, that they had become like unto a flint. Wherefore, as they were white. I'm making a frowny face for anybody who's listening and doesn't have the video. Wherefore, as they were white. No, I can't do it.
Do it, Erika. Do it.
And exceedingly fair and delightsome, that they might not be enticing unto my people, the Lord God did cause a skin of blackness to come upon them.
Yeah, that's what I grew up with, Erika. That's what I grew up with.
How are you not a racist piece of shit?
Because it doesn't align with what we believe today.
Yeah. Well, but I can't even. I have yucky goosebumps.
Yeah.
It makes me feel yucky, and I well, well, it is something that has changed today. It's still very evident. It's still like very much a part of the vernacular of the church. And I will just say, a few years ago, when I was working at this organization, there was this controversy that came out. I don't remember where it was. It might have been Lehigh, or it might have been further south, but there was a bakery and they had different kinds of like baked goods, and they called one, the dark, like chocolate ones, they called the Canaanites, and then the lighter ones, the Lamanites.
No.
Yeah, there was a big controversy about it.
I don't remember this. Ew.
Yeah,
Ew.
it was really nasty. This would probably be like 2022 probably.
Oh my God.
And I came into work and I was like, did you guys hear about it? And to their credit, everyone was Mormon in the room, and they were all like, and one of the women, she was like, well, that's just ignorance. And I was like, it is. But I also knew, I didn't know that passage, but I was like, but it's in your book. It's part of, like, that is where I always get sort of hung up, is like, it's part of it. And they were uncomfortable. You could tell they were like, squirming and like,
and trying to make it make sense in their head, doing those mental gymnastics to make it make sense.
Yeah. Like, you can condemn it in this moment, but it is a part and parcel of your religion and the scripture. So like, you can look at me, but then you have this book that says exactly the opposite. You're going to go hear this or something similar on Sundays. Yeah. And that is like the thing that is really difficult for me to swallow. And that was one of the things that was really difficult about working around people who would condemn it, but also not totally, because you can't, because this is what the church sort of believes and has taught.
And I can tell you that as a missionary, I remember serving in Florida, but I served with a Latin culture. I was Spanish.
So they would be the
Lamanites. They're descendants of
the Canaanites are really dark. They really
they're like the African.
Lamanites are a little bit lighter, right? And then the
white and delightsome,
and then the white and delightsome.
Yeah. So serving as a missionary in Florida with people from every Spanish-speaking country you can imagine, it was a melting pot in Miami. And I don't know how I made sense of it, because thinking that these people had been cursed. Oh, no, it wasn't them. It was their ancestors. And they have a chance. I don't know that I believed that they would become white and delightsome in this life, but maybe in the next. And I remember just thinking, like, why is this a bad thing? I remember serving my mission like I was born in the wrong culture. I wish I were Latin, because they're so open and loving and hermana come más, and like, give me besitos, just so genuine and kind and loving. And to think these people were cursed, I don't see it.
So but that was there, and that's the layer that is all that I always like perceive, I guess, because like you know, if someone had asked you then, I think, you know, are you a racist, or someone did the cookie thing with the dark cookies, you would have been like, oh, I condemn that. Yeah. But in your head, you've been taught that these people with the darker skin who are Lamanites, and they have been cursed. So there's a layer of your brain that knows that. And that's what I felt with those people in the room. They were looking at me going, that's just ignorance. What a silly thing for them to do with the cookies. But underneath it, they were like, are brown people cursed? Seems bad, but that's what I've been taught. Yeah. And that's the thing that will consistently stick in my craw. That is.
Again, you were taught to turn off any critical thinking skills. Yeah. And logic was the enemy. And I don't believe that anymore. I think faith is, unfortunately, in this context, is ignorance. And it's been taught to you from me from the time I was in diapers.
That's a hard thing to unlearn, but you're doing the good work and fighting the good fight.
And I know a lot of you are.
She's amazing.
Oh, thanks. But I know a lot of you are going through the same thing. Our audience members, you wouldn't be tuning into this unless you were curious or needing help with your faith deconstruction. And we can go through community, like validating each other's experiences, knowing you are not crazy for experiencing this sort of thing. It was just taught to you. I want to conclude this episode, if you're okay, Erika, by reading something from the CES letter, which came This was Jeremy Reynolds' experience. He writes, "The past year was the worst year of my life. I experienced a betrayal, loss, and sadness like anything I've ever known. Do what is right, if the consequence follow now holds a completely different meaning for me." Oh, I'm getting chills. "I desperately searched for answers to all of the problems. To me, the answer eventually came, but it was not what I expected or hoped for." He ends with a poem. Hold tight, it might be a little bit longer. He says, "As a child, it seemed so simple. Every step was clearly marked. Priesthood, mission, sweetheart, temple. Bright with hope, I soon embarked. But now I have become a man and doubt the promise of the plan. For the path is growing steeper, and a slip could mean my death. Plunging upward ever deeper, I can barely catch my breath. Aware within this untamed child is the star that led me as a child. As I crest the shadowed mountain, I embrace the endless sky. The expanse of heaven's foundation now unfolds before my eye. 1,000 stars shine on the land, the chart drafted by my own hand." Whew. Like, that gives me the feels. And because I relate so deeply with it, you grow up with your path being so marked. Like, this is what you need to do. This is who you need to become. And then you leave this church and you're like, I have no idea who the hell I am. What is my path before me? Someone tell me, but don't tell me. It's just such a struggle to go through. It's worth it. Oh God, is it worth it? I would choose this every day to leaving the church, to staying in it, but it doesn't come without its challenges.
Yeah. And I would say, from an outsider looking in, one of the things that has sort of become apparent to me is, and we talked about it a little bit, but you are essentially, as an adult, when you deconstruct and you pull away, your development was arrested when you were a child. The rest of us get to ask questions and figure things out and decide who we are, and not have this very clear path. You are this, you are this, you are this, and you're going to do these things, and you don't need to think about any of it. We all get to go, am I this? Am I this? Am I a girl who smokes in the bathroom at high school? Am I a girl who sleeps around? Am I a girl who studies all the time? And you grow and you become yourself and you get to choose these things. And that is it's hard. Actually, I'm like having this revelation as I'm talking to you. It's hard when you're a teenager and you are figuring out who you are. But you're doing that now as an adult, and that it is hard. It's a beautiful process. It's wonderful. And then you arrive and you go like, and you always change, of course, and evolve. But I know generally who I am, and I've known for a long time. But you are just having that process now, and that is a difficult process. Teenagers are fucking crazy.
Even 2 years in, like, because this Wednesday will be my 2-year anniversary, and I thought I'd have it all figured out by now, but I don't. And that's okay.
That is okay.
Because everyone's grieving process is different. Everybody processes this differently. Part of me wishes that I could just like come out of this, the other side, just like so confident and I know exactly who I am and what I'm doing. That's not the case for me. And it's okay, because this is the process that I need to become who I'm meant to be.
And maybe give yourself some grace and time, because as I think about it, and like when that like sort of started for me, I would say probably around age 10, I started to like, become more of an adult person rather than a child. 10-year-old is not an adult, but I remember getting into, clothes and like really wanting to be a teenager, and like, it was the 80s, so I would like talk to my dad like this, and I was like, I am like a black girl now. Clearly, I grew out of that stage, thank God. But that's when I started to kind of investigate who am I and try different things on. I like tried on the Valley Girl thing, which is really fun. Never go back to that. But I feel like I wasn't sort of into even myself until probably like 30. So it was like 20-year process that we all had, and it changes. But at some point you just start to kind of enjoy the ride. So hopefully at some point you can be like, and you do at some point, I feel like you get into things and you're like, I can do this. This is amazing. And maybe as a note for future episodes, one of the things I want to do with you, like, is to start like watching different things, which we've done a little. We watched Jaws together. But I think that we'll talk about it. But I think it would be really fun to have some trying moments with you, like trying new things that, like, one of the Murph and my favorite shows is this cartoon called Big Mouth. It is so fucking filthy. It's really good. I mean, it's not like it's a regular show. Maya Rudolph is in it, but I love her. You have to see it. So we have to do these things. But anyway, my point is enjoy the ride and like figuring out who you are, even though it's scary sometimes. Yeah. But it's better, I think, to figure out who you are than to be told who you are.
Amen. Say that again.
It's better to be able to figure out who you are than to be told who you are.
Speaking of, at the end of this month, I am legally having my name changed.
Hey!
I'll say Kate, but my last name I'm choosing for myself, because often the church tells you who you are. Even in the temple, they give you a new name,
which is the same name as everybody else that day.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm choosing my own name as I move forward, and I'm hoping that will be a really good step as I shape who I am, and it's gonna be awesome. So
I love that.
Yay.
Onward, upward.
Forever. So again, thank you everybody for being here. We really genuinely appreciate you joining us today. Many thanks to Land of 1,000 Hills for having us again. Really, really appreciate them. We do want to let you know that if you've enjoyed this episode or any other episodes, to please share, like, subscribe, leave a comment, just leave a rating. We would love to hear from you. Email us. We're found at 2nomos@gmail.com. You can reach out to us on Facebook, on Instagram. We also have our TikTok accounts. What's yours?
Mine is Americana, so it's IMERIKANA.
And I'm Midlife Exmo because I'm still in midlife. It's midlife
is great.
Yeah. Anything else you wanted to add, Erika?
I think that's it. The only thing I would have is probably
cheers to deconstructing Mormonism.